Okay, testing, 1, 2, yay, it works.
County Commission meeting of April 14th. If you please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's everybody this morning? Okay, public comment. Yes, Gary. I'll start with whoever wants to go. That's fine, right up here at the microphone.
You guys that don't know me, most of you do. I'm Gary Lane from Lane's down at the Wood Lane Ranch. The reason that we are here, I think most of us are concerned about the 2% franchise proposal. And I understand it's a proposal, but I would like to try to influence you guys to reconsider that, because for ranchers, you get ag deferments, and I've already mentioned it to you, John. We don't have a profit margin that some of these other companies have, and for us alone, it would be about $2,000. I can't speak for Carter Ag, but I know that it's considerable for them, and for Tyler and everybody. And so what you're doing is cutting into our bottom line. And correct me if I'm wrong, for us, our major bill at the end of the year, ours is well over $50,000. Okay. Well, that last time this came up, and I was here the first time the franchise tax was imposed, and that was to get us under we had to do something to generate income for the, get out from under the state. And that's what it was for. But we put a sunset on it, and that was when Brent Eldridge was here. Unfortunately, I wish he could be here, actually. But I was here when that was first going on, and I remember the debate, and I had the same concerns back then. They only wanted 1.5%. And that increased ours. I did the numbers. It did us up over $1,200, and I think Tyler's was over $1,500. And so what I'd like you to consider, I understand all the budget issues, because like I said, I was here when we had to lower the budget from $11 million to $9 million, and there were some tough cuts we had to make under Terry Rubal's direction. And so that was the reason it was done then. But I think that I would make a suggestion, and I'll bring up a problem, but I'm also offering suggestions. Prorate it, give us an ag deferment, or maybe go from, tier it from 1% to 3%, or do something that's a little more creative than just across the board 2%, because that penalizes the farmers and the ranchers. And I don't need to tell you how ranchers are feeling about the government. And so it starts at the federal, but believe me, it'll trickle down to the county. So I would suggest that you guys consider maybe tearing it down, and if you really want the public comment, 10 o'clock on Monday is not a good day to do it, okay? So I would suggest that if you really want the public input, that you schedule it for a Tuesday night, because most of the ranchers are laughing, and it's a tough time for us to come. I took out of my schedule. I know the rest of these guys are busy. We're trying to get our water started, and all of a sudden, there's a new, reconsider the tax. Okay, there's a new tax, and you know how fed up everybody is with government control. So my question, with all due respect, is to consider be a little more creative about how you make up the deficit. And I would like to publicly state that I'm not against the swimming pool. It was an issue when I was here. Okay, but I don't think it's fair to impose it across the board. If this is what it is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that where you need the money? Is that, okay.
Swimming pool's paid for, and then there's money for
so there's money for that.
Has nothing to do with the general fund.
Okay, I stand corrected.
No problem.
In any event, I would like you guys to be a little more creative about how you make up this 2%, because we are going to be unfairly paying the biggest brunt of this 2%. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice. I might add today that we got an announcement this morning that Linda Eldridge passed away. So you'll know that, and we send our deepest sympathy to Brent, to the Eldridge family. Okay, next person. Yeah, please come.
Hi, Carol Hunt. Didn't your financial director, Elizabeth Francis, last week say that the county was in pretty good shape?
We are.
Then how does that come to a need of a 2% franchise tax? We don't need it on our electricity. We have people who are not wealthy, to say the least. A lot of people in this county are, and I see them when I help hand out food commodities and that, and people are needing food, and they sure need their warmth from electric in the winter, and they don't need additional funds added onto their electric bill. If the county's in good shape, then why even have this, and why are we here, and why do we want more taxes? We don't even know the repercussions that the federal government has imposed on us over the last 4 years. And I don't trust Washington, D.C. Obama put out 80,000 rules and regulations 4 years ago, and he put out another 40,000 last year. We don't even know what those are going to be, and it's all going to impact all of us in our paychecks or our lifestyle or whatever. I don't see where we need more taxes, especially at this time. I won't go on, and there's other people might have better points than me, but if we're in good shape, why are we here?
We want your opinion, Carol, anytime, and we'll explain that. We'll explain to you what's going on.
Well, thank you. I didn't have to come in with my guns blazing.
No, you're okay. Public comment? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Mandy.
Good morning, Chairman
Good morning.
Rose and County Commissioners. My name is Amanda Hilton, and I'm the Manager of Finance and Supply Chain at Robinson Nevada Mining Company. Robinson recognizes the difficult financial condition the county is in. In fact, we are in a very similar predicament for 2014. Copper prices have dropped, and our production is forecasted to be the lowest that it's been since we reopened in 2004. This is certainly not a surprise to you, as you've received notice from the Department of Taxation that we don't anticipate having any net proceeds liability this year due to our lagging production. 2014 is a critical year for Robinson. We are aggressively developing new ore bodies that we plan on mining in the future, but cash is very constrained. The proposal of a 2% increase to the franchise fee would increase Robinson's annual liability by approximately $300,000. Because cash is so constrained this year, that additional cash would need to come from other discretionary spending, such as exploration or further limiting our ability to contribute financially to the community. When cash is constrained, Robinson has to reduce its cash outflows. We hope that the county has pursued every opportunity for reducing its outflows prior to instituting a new tax, especially when one business will pay approximately 60% of this tax. Mining is a fickle and unstable industry. I believe this tax is meant to stabilize the county's finances. However, we believe that they will become less stable with this new tax because it's very dependent on Robinson's mill turning. Robinson Nevada Mining Company is in strong opposition to the increase to the franchise fee, and we respectfully request that your board reevaluate its pursuit for increase.
Thank you. Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Carol asked the same question that I had wondered about, was why are we here in the first place if the county's in good shape?
Well, you are county commissioner. You should understand what we're doing right now.
I understand the issues, but I have a couple of three things that I think need to be answered to the public.
Sure.
Number one is, when was the franchise fee supposed to sunset?
2011.
Okay, so it did not sunset in
Yes,
2011.
it
Then
was-
why is it still on our
Well, it has. I can't answer why it's still there, but it sunset in 2011. And Mrs. Francis, I just want to hear public comment, and we'll answer all these questions.
Okay, I just want to make that statement. I didn't know
Absolutely, no problem.
when it was. Also, on the swimming pool, which I think is wonderful, but I believe that the people of White Pine County need to know what the budget is on that swimming pool and how much under the budget we are. I know you say we're under the budget, but I don't know under the budget. It's the 3 million that started the 5 million and that I heard it moved up to, or the 7 million that I heard it moved up to.
I will answer
I'm
your
kind of in the
question.
dark there.
I will answer your question on that one. We are not supposed to talk to you in public comment, but I will answer that
I
question.
know you don't have to.
We had $3 million, yeah, right. We had $3 million in the fund from the previous commission who did a good
I
job
understood that.
and did that. When we finally got the final figure, we had money in accounts, which Mrs. Francis will explain to you. The swimming pool has nothing to do with this budget.
Well, I know that.
Nothing.
I know.
And
I'm
it's
just curious.
$7.1 million is what the pool costs. We have $1 million some, I can't remember the exact figure because I don't have it in front of me, for operation. So the pool is all taken care of. Just forget the pool. We're worrying about the general fund right now. And we're in a procedure that it required by law that we have to meet deadlines, and that's what we're doing. Doesn't mean it's written in stone right now, because it's written in stone in June, but not today. Okay, this is just to get the test.
And I am aware of that,
good.
as I've been in your seat
All
before.
right, yes, you have.
But I am concerned about the franchise fee being added again. I agree with these guys, it's going to really hit the farmers and the miners really, really hard, and I think at this point, nobody's in a condition to be able to pay high prices for things we're all hurting, so I would like you to take that into consideration.
Thank you. Public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Tiger Seal, farmer in London. A little bit about what Gary talked about. We have just a small farm, my wife and I. And just want to let you county commissioners know that how a little bit about my operation. 95% of my hay sales is out of state. So I'm bringing in out of state money into White Pine County. Out of that money, probably 90% or 95% of that money, I spend in White Pine County. Buying my supplies, buying my fuel, buying the needs for my family and my farm. If you guys cut into my bottom line, then I'm going to have to cut into the bottom lines of the businesses that I do business with. So it's kind of a trickle-down effect. Like Gary said, and I hope you guys take into consideration some other alternatives rather than this franchise tax that we're looking at this morning.
Thank you, sir. Public comment? Yes, sir.
I think all you guys know me. I represent 3 businesses that are operating in this county, and I believe that this 2% tax is going to have a negative effect on most all businesses that are here. Oh, James Adams, I'm sorry. And the largest bearer of this new tax is going to come in business form. It's not going to be the residents who pay, $80, $90 a month. It's going to cost them a couple of bucks more, maybe a month. But the businesses who use high degrees of electricity are going to be the brunt of this tax. And I don't think it's a wise one. I think there's other ways to solve this problem. When we operate businesses and we find ourselves shortfall, we do every year during the winter months, we have to cut. And sometimes it gets ugly. But I can't go down the road to my neighbor and say, well, I'm going to be short on my budget, so you got to help me out here. It's not the way to do it. And I'm just going to encourage you to look at other options, look at other ways, cut the budgets, and not look for just more revenues it's going to cost. And I believe it's going to cost this county in the long run because it's going to hurt business. And we're going to see the effect. And I understand what these guys do. I depend upon other people to have money to come and do business with us. And the more that we tax, the more they are going to have money, and the more our businesses are also going to lose money. Try to use other methods.
Thank you, sir. Public comment? Yes, Mr. Reed. How are you?
Morning, this is Steve Court from Lund Farming. When I first came on, that was kind of hard to take. This year, we're required by Mount Wheeler to post a bond for 2 months' payment, and that's going to cost us money too. But this, you know, if I was raising top quality hay, and I got top quality dollar, you know, maybe I could share some of that, but it's not that way. You know, I don't get high tonnage. We're probably more in the 3 ton. You know, that's not very much, and it's cow quality hay. And so the only thing that this extra thousands of dollars does in our budget is cut into the bottom line, and it's marginal anyway. And so that makes it very difficult, and it really doesn't make sense. And it looks like if it's still on, we might need to be rectifying and returning that money. I remember during the property taxes, the same people are paying the property taxes, so we're taking the money from them also. Back in when we had the housing market and everything, the property went down, the taxes didn't. You know, we couldn't cut our budgets back, and we had to still pay the amount of taxes that were owed to balance our budgets, and it made it tough. And so as a county, we need to be pretty dang careful about how we spend our money, because, you know, we're spending the people's money. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Yes. Morning, Ken.
Good morning. I'm Ken Clearward, and my only comment on this is that I heard about this over the weekend, and the things that I heard were what I would say are reactionary. You know, you don't pass this or the mines are going to fold, and the ranchers and the businessmen are going to be out in the cold. Well, it sounds to me, with the testimony of each of those, yeah, it's going to cause a problem. And my thinking is, rather than to try and fill this right away by pulling something out of the hat like the franchise 2% tax, do a little bit more study and find out and look at possibilities. I know there might be some things that the county can do to raise money, and I mean more than just a cake sale or something like that.
Yard sales.
Well, yard sale or whatever, but some kind of a way that it's going to have to hurt somebody a little, but for somebody to be hurt a little bit is a lot better than other people being hurt a lot. And so look at what's fair. And first off, I don't really know if we were that solvent. How did we get into this situation where we need to do this? I'm hoping that will be answered today. And if there's something that people could do, you know, outside the box. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Public comment?
My name is Brent Gardner. When this tax first came up, I think that, I don't argue whether you need it or not at the time that you did it, but the thing that surprised me was the selectiveness of how it was applied. I don't know how many people live in White Pine County, how many people live in Ely that weren't, but maybe I'm wrong, you can correct me. This tax would only apply to the people outside of the city limit of Ely, is that correct? That was what...
No, it applies to the city's citizens. It applies to the entire county.
This applies to the entire
county.
It applies to
I misunderstood it a little bit. So this applies to the entire county. But then we had a sunset on it, and I thought it was gone. I do feel like those who are irrigating get a little bit harder proportion hit on it. Right now, I can't argue. I sell hay, and the hay prices are up. They're great. I watch the dairy industry in California, which is where our market is. I figured this year was our last good hay price year. Unfortunately for them, they're in a drought. When that drought comes off, I think our market is, with the loss of cattle in California, I think our market is destined for some real declines. So anything that we can do to better us, I have to agree with Tyler. I'm world's best procrastinator, so I'm just finishing up my taxes for the year, and I'm just amazed at how much money I do spend here. And I agree that money does come from California. I get my checks right out to Tulare, California, and I'm shocked at how much money every year when I do schedule that I spend in White Pine County. And I know that the agribusiness I spend at, and in Ely I spend a lot of money, and that does trickle down. I like, if you need the money, you need the money, but I like to make sure that these don't go on. I guess the thing that disappointed me last time was that they said they had was it 5 years? I forget how long it was, and I thought, when that came out, I thought, this will never go away. And so I'd like to see those things that come out for special reasons. When the county was in financial difficulty, I don't like to see them like the federal government. When they put an excise tax of some kind, you just know it's not going to go away, and that those senators are going to increase it and use it to their benefit. I'd like to see when we have a special needs tax, if we need it, put it on, and then it goes away, and that we don't rely on it. I guess I'm more conservative, more pragmatic, that if we used it to get out of financial difficulties, I think we're out of financial if we could look more at cost cutting and try and do more of a balanced budget. I'm glad, I really did think it was just the county, not the city really, but it's spread over everybody. I guess for everybody, if we can just rely on the main taxes that we have and sunset some of these things. We say it's going to sunset, let's try and do that and live within our means. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, Gary.
John, can I make one?
You can make anything you'd like, sir.
Okay. A couple of things is we talked about...
We really need you up here, Gary, for the reporters. I'm sorry.
I just want to elaborate on a few things these guys have already said. For one thing, John, you've been here. The mines come and go. But the ranchers, a lot of them have been here over 100 years. And so if the mine shuts down, then this whole situation gets pretty sticky. The other thing, the average price of hay, and I've been here for coming on 30 years myself, and of course there's an inflation, all this, but it's more like $175 a ton. And with the rest of these guys, we sell our hay to a California company. So 100% of all our money in our hay sales comes from out of state. Another thing I was going to bring up. I had another question. When I was a county commissioner, we felt that we had to have $2 million in reserve in case the mines, we did a budget analysis and said, okay, we have to have $2 million that we're not going to touch. It used to be $2 million. Is that still the case?
We have 13 million now.
Okay.
To be, Gary,
8 million for the emergency plus an additional investment.
John's answer was correct, speaking to all the reserves. But the fund you're talking about is now set at 8.0.
Well, that was something that was going on when we were commissioners.
Yeah. That's why we're solving. The minute when everyone's through talking, we'll explain to you what most of this 1.8 million is, okay?
Is it 8 million or?
8.9, what is it?
It's 8 million in net proceeds mitigation. The fund that was established when you were county commissioner, and was at 2 million is now to 8.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and you established it at 2.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jacob Carter, rancher down in Lund. I didn't come here for nothing, so I might as well say something, but as one that tries to balance the books and the business and try to keep things flowing properly, I'm amazed to see how much money is out, and money that you just didn't expect and that you can hardly plan for sometimes, and those stack up at the end of the year. We don't need another tax, and like it said before, it's hard to repeat it, what everybody else has said, but we're talking about, I don't know where the money's going. Sometimes I can suppose it's a public facility for the use of the county, but we always go for the businesses. It's always for the businesses. That is the tone in Washington, D.C. right now, is tax the businesses. We consider them to be the rich, and they're having a hard time trying to make their balance sheets out too. But most of those are for the public. That money's going for the public, and I think the public needs to take a larger responsibility for that when it's going to a public facility for public use. And that's...
Thank you, Jerry. Any other public comment? Public comment? If not, I'll close the public comment. We'll go into our county commission meeting. First item on the agenda is discussion action, possible approval of FY 2015 tentative budget in the state required format. Mrs. Francis.
All of the information we've been working on over the past several months has now been gone ahead and compiled into these documents here, which is the state required format. I want to emphasize this is the tentative budget. It is not the final. We're still working on it. We recognize that there are still issues outstanding that need to be addressed. So, with these actions, start in on all this good stuff.
Why don't you do it online and save a lot of money?
We're going to, Carol.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's one of the cost savers groups here.
Great.
We are working on that. All right. So, first of all, to address a few questions, we're solvent. Why do we need to look at additional revenues?
I wonder if you stand up here so we can hear you on the microphone. You want to do that, Elizabeth? But you have to move all that stuff. Okay, I'm sorry. You're fine. But just so that they can hear you. Can you hear her talk?
Not very well.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay. Elizabeth Francis, Finance Director, White Pine County, for the record. The first thing I'd like to address is the big question. If we're solvent, why do we need to have a franchise fee? I stated we are in good financial condition, and we are. The problem is we are in a declining revenue cycle, and in order to balance the budget, we are beginning to have to cut into that fund balance. You cannot go on forever supporting operations with fund balance. It has to come from your operating revenues. To continually dip into your fund balance will lead you back to where you were before with the Department of Taxation here, because you'll be bankrupt again. So there are two sides to the budget equation. One is the revenues, the other is the expenditures. As you know, we've worked very, very hard and made some really hard cuts across the board in every department. No one was immune from cuts. In order to go ahead and bring the expenditures down as much as we could. The other side of the equation is the revenue, and those are declining out of issues that are outside of our control in some cases. The CTX is going down. We lost the water rights leases that were reverted back to us. We're no longer collecting revenues there. So there are different issues that are at our hands here that are causing the revenues to decline. So the proposal to impose a new franchise fee is to help balance that equation. We have done serious cuts. You all know that. We've sat through the meetings together, and we've worked very hard to make cuts. In looking at the franchise fee with the district attorney, the proposal is now, instead of a 2% franchise fee, to do a 1% franchise fee. You'll note that we have put that into your budget documents. So you will see that there is now a deficit. We are not balanced any longer. But I did feel that the 1% pursuant to NRS was the appropriate way to go forward with that. And it is a proposal. I want to remind the commissioners, and I want to remind all the public present here at this time, that this is a tentative budget. We still have the public hearing in May and the submission of the final in June. So we will continue to work very hard and look at other avenues, other ways to cut, other possible revenue sources, and see what we can do. So this isn't the final, this is the tentative. And so having said that, I'd like to go ahead and just address one more thing, because I believe the question was, why is the franchise fee sunset? Is it still on my bill? The franchise fee was imposed at 2.5%. 2% for the county's general fund, and 0.5% for the fire district. Only the 2% sunset. The 0.5% was specifically written into the ordinance that it would be maintained in perpetuity to help support the county fire district. So only the 2% sunset. The other 0.5% you're still seeing on your bill, and so that's why you're still seeing it on your power bill. All right. So now, if we go ahead and we take a look at these.
Well, there was one question on that sunsetting. Go ahead, sorry, I forgot.
Okay. Feel free to come back to it if it pops back in. Okay. The first in the packet that I gave you is the very large packet, and I do apologize that I could not get this out to you sooner. This is a very complex document to go ahead and create, and once we had finished our budgets just last week, it took probably about 80 man-hours to get these documents in front of you put together. And so I'd like to thank my staff for their assistance in getting these documents put together. The reason I don't just utilize these documents in preparing and talking to you about budgets is I believe that they are very generic. They don't offer you the detail. They're very summarized. And you can't really understand what the departments are asking for. Like I always say, when we cut the budgets, we don't cut it $100,000 here, $100,000 there, because that's not possible. We cut it $100 here and $300 there and maybe $1,000 there. So by providing you with the detail that I do that intentionally so you can see what the specifics are that are being requested, and then if we do need to go ahead and make cuts, it makes it easier to see what we're cutting and make reasonable choices and sound decisions on how we're going to fund the government. Okay, this first one is for the White Pine County, and this particular document will include all of the funds we talked about, with the exception of your townships and your fire districts. Okay, so that's going to include all of your general fund, every department within the general fund. It's going to include all of your special revenue funds, your ag district, your EMS, your ag extension, your social services, the grants, the road funds. So all of these are in this particular fund. And if you look, it starts out, and I'm going to flip through some pages here because a lot of the beginning is all about your tax revenues, how they're calculated, what is the maximum allowed under the law, and then what are we capped at. So if you have specific questions on that, I'm happy to go through it with you, but it does make it very difficult to understand how we derive the revenues, because it's a lot of legal calculations. So I'll go ahead and address those on a case-by-case basis if you'd like to. You're welcome.
Just state the pages you're going to.
I'm going to start with page 13. This is Schedule B, and this is where your general fund starts. The revenues that we talked about and that I detailed by line item so you could see what they were, now summarized in the state-required format. Okay? Property taxes and other taxes, licenses and permits, intergovernmental charges for services, fines and forfeits, miscellaneous revenues. If you look at this number, the subtotal for all revenue sources, and then adding in the transfers in, you will come up to the number that we discussed in our budgets, with the exception that the proposed franchise fee was decreased to 1% for next year. So those revenues do tie to the documentation that you've been given.
That question would be appropriate now. The question that slipped so quickly was, in reading the old ordinance, it has a specific paragraph, I think, that excluded the city of Ely as to the 2%.
Oh, did it?
That's having read what I was able to find. And I'm
Okay, then
wondering-
I stand corrected. I did not, no, I was not aware of that.
I would guess that knowing that would be critical, because it would make a big difference. Well, it makes some difference, mostly
Yeah.
residential and smaller businesses, but it would make a difference on our forecasted revenues out of that. Does any?
I was just going to ask the DA, have you looked at that ordinance? I think we better all get on the same page.
Yeah, I apologize. I was not aware of it. I'm not a city resident, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Maybe we want to add that instruction about.
I'm sorry, could you please come up? If you want to talk, you're welcome to talk, but we need you on the microphone, please.
I believe Commissioner Foster is correct. The city of Ely wanted to annex Robinson Nevada Mining Company into the city at that time, so that we would, so that the franchise fee would go to the city.
Sorry. Thank you.
It is, section 5.60.100B. Total gross receipts means revenue received from customers located within White Pine County, Nevada, but excluding customers located within the city of Ely limits.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
think
Mr. Costa.
I do think my estimates will still be accurate, because they are based on the 0.5% currently being generated by the fire district.
Multiple of them, okay.
So,
Well, no,
yes.
but the fire district is, Kelly, the fire district proportion, that 0.5% does apply across the city. I remember specifically reading that. Can I see that, or could you read that? It's about a 2-sentence little paragraph. It says that it references one portion of that tax as exempting Ely. So I think the 0.5% in the actual collections are full county, while the 2% that we had or could have again.
Okay, I can go back and check with Kevin.
Excluded the city. How does it word the exclusion?
For fire?
For the 2%. It says the sentence it leads into, but not the city of Ely.
That's not in this section.
Can I take a quick look? Do you have it related to the sections right next to it? I'll take it to later. Thank you.
Yeah, anyway, let's continue on here, and
Okay.
you two can look it up. Let's continue.
Okay, and I will be working with the district attorney on that to make sure that, you know, if the ordinance does go forward, that it's
Thank
written.
you. You guys are being picked up on the microphones, and we'll do it after when we're at recess, please.
Again, this is a tentative budget, so if we do need to
We
make
can make all the
corrections,
changes
we're
you
good.
want as we go down. We just have to get the tentative budget signed and balanced today to be in the mail. It has to be, as tomorrow is tax day throughout the country. We need to get this into Carson City. We still have another 2 months to work on the final version, so let's just continue with this explanation.
Okay, now if you move to page 16, you'll see that's where the general fund expenditures start. And you will see that it is outlined by department. So it starts with the county commissioners, the county clerk, county recorder, assessor, and so on. And so you'll see all the numbers outlined, and every one of these numbers in your tentative approved budget will tie to the numbers we discussed in our meeting. Okay, and it goes right through every department, and your general fund will continue on through to page 26, I believe.
What page?
26. And there, in the middle of page 26, you will see total expenditures and other uses at $11,905,441. That is $3 off from our $11,905,438. Rounding the system.
11 million.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I have trouble with that million thing. $11,905,438. That's too much to say. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Okay, so as you go through that, you'll note that if you take this budget worksheet that we utilized, you'll be able to tie the departments out. Okay? And then as we go on, you'll hit the agricultural district 13. Each one of these will tie out to the budget worksheets we decided on. I've also tied out the current year estimated. It's based on what the budget is right this minute. So in your handouts that I gave you, those numbers were current as of the time I developed those handouts back on December 31st. However, as you know, every commission meeting, you get a list of budget transfers from me under your consent agenda. And so those have moved the numbers back and forth a little bit, so they might not look exactly the way they are on the handouts that I prepared on December 31st. And then your June 30th, 2013 does tie out to your audited financial statement. Okay? So as you go through, you'll see that there's the Agricultural District 13, and that's on page 27, and it goes right through every fund that we've discussed, including emergency medical services, the Ag Extension, the indigent, the welfare grants, the welfare set-aside program, the welfare donations, your 3 road funds, road, public transit, and regional transportation, the airport improvements, the capital improvements, your SB 74 fund, your recorder technologies, your assessor technology, your clerk technology, your recorder mining map, the library gift fund, the genetic marker, the range improvement, wildlife management, senior citizen center, nuclear waste. I have included this budget in there as if we do get interim financing, we may have money to go in there. So I have left this budget as part of it, but we don't know if that counts, so the budget is at this point at 0. The industrial park, the justice court admin fees, juvenile court admin fees, justice court facilities, justice court collections, the drug rehab program, the victim impact panel, district courthouse arrest, grant projects, justice courthouse arrest, district court admin fees, justice courthouse arrest. The Lund Justice Court is in there only for comparative purposes. It is closed. The budget is at 0. Legal aid, forensic services, the property sales trust, Las Vegas water levy, domestic violence, the drug prevention program, the White Pine County Aquatic Construction Fund, the White Pine County Aquatic Operating Fund, Camp Success, the State of Nevada, China Springs, State Indigent Accident, Child Support, Drug Task Force, and the Violent, the VAWA grant, the STOP grant. And so you also have then at the end your Golf Course Enterprise Fund and your Building Enterprise Fund. I did also include an estimate for lobbying. Although we have not designated money specifically in the budget, I have done an estimate at the end of your packet that is on page 92. And it is allows for transportation, lodging and meals, salary and wages, an amount of $6,648. These will come out of monies that are already budgeted in the general fund for travel, for legislative purposes, and the work that Patrice will do, and that Jim Garza will do, and that I will do, and other people will do throughout the county related to dealing with the legislative session of county. And then you have just contract information and your packet information and your transfer schedules. So this is all of the information that we have discussed. There are 2 funds that I have added, because in reading through my instructions, I had dropped 2 agency funds, which means we get money and we have to pay it out. That's just the way it is. They're not required to be budgeted. However, reading specifically through the instructions provided by the Department of Taxation, it does say that if they do receive ad valorem tax, I must budget them. So those 2 that have been added in are the state indigent and the indigent accident. So those are funds that we have not talked about, but they're basically just whatever comes in is what we pay out. And I just have to budget them because they have ad valorem tax coming in. So this is the entire budget. It is everything we've discussed over the past several months. Based on the final amendments, I have told you about the several small changes that I have made, adding those 2 funds, and going ahead and reducing the franchise fee proposal. And so that is everything in the state budget format. Are there any questions on that?
Not for me. Any questions, John?
And again, I emphasize, this is not the final. We will have time to amend and change everything on this as we deem necessary between now and the end of June.
And it is premised on a 1% tax effective July 1?
Effective August.
August.
You have to have a 90-day window for implementation. So if I took it for 10 months.
Okay.
Okay.
And it is, if I understand correctly, that it's at the 1% level.
Yes.
And it is forecasted to cover city and county.
No, well,
Maybe we have to resolve that.
yes, I will go ahead and take a look and discuss that with Kevin. I kind of got some rough estimates from Kevin, and then utilized the information from the fire district based on what he was telling me.
Is it plugged in at about $225,000 now? This is the one.
$183,000.
Oh, because of 10 months.
Yes.
And then lastly, are we, at any official capacity, is the county circulating a draft that would contemplate another 1% increase 24 months down the road?
That is a possibility. One of the things we really need to do is we need to really pursue what other revenues are available. And I think one of the discussions I've had with you in the past is we need to go ahead and, especially during this legislative session, see what kind of legislation we can push forward that will make it more conducive to attract outside businesses to our area, because the real true way to promote true economic stability is through economic development. And so, let's see what we can do at the legislative level to go ahead and put some NRS in that will allow us to attract outside business to this area.
Thank you. I think you've done a hugely great job technically, and the commission's worked hard to get this on. But saying that we, in anticipation of developing new business in the county, we need to plan a new tax 24 months out is right in line behind having the world's largest open-air snake pit as a tourist attraction. I mean,
I don't know what this 24-month thing about. I don't know what you're talking about. Personally.
I did say it was going to happen. I said it's a possibility. It's a possibility. It's up to the county commissioners. I can't dictate what fees or taxes are in place. That is up to your vote. But I do think that if we implement the 1% now, part of our job is to go ahead and find other revenue sources.
I agree. Yeah. And I agree that's half the job. And I thank you. That's a great answer. I would ask if the chairman had a question for the chairman.
Sure.
Before we vote on this, can we take a look at that ordinance and get an idea what the applicability is going to be? Not only would that affect the amount, perhaps some way, but also would allow us to...
I'll give you a recess, but we have to vote on this today. We have no choice.
We're going to recess and find out what...
If you want to visit now, I'll give you a 15-minute recess, then we can come back, or 20, what do you want? 10? Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Thank you. You don't have to have a report.
I go back to the session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, the next small budget that you should have, the next 4 budgets will be a little bit quicker, first one is for the Township of Lund, and...
Back up. The instant question at the break, I inject that and I'll withdraw it if you like.
Sure, no,
The one specific question was, in planning on this budget, re-implementation or new or whatever we might want to ultimately call it, were you forecasting it to apply to the city of Ely or not? We were asked that question. I don't think we get a clear answer.
Yes.
Intent is not to.
It's based on what the fire district obtained, which, from what I read in that statute, excludes the city of Ely.
For the fire district.
Yes. So it would be for county residents.
Okay, great.
But I will work
Outside,
on
county residents outside the city of Ely.
Yeah, but we'll get because this is a good question.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
We'll get to the bottom of this before the final. We'll get
Right.
we do have to have 2 public hearings, I think. 1 or 2?
One.
Just 1.
The third Monday in May.
All right, we'll get back to it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet.
You're welcome. Okay, the next one is the Township of Lund, and this is the tentative budget. Again, these next 3 are pretty easy. It's just they each have to submit their own budget, and so for Lund, it's exactly as we went ahead, and their budgets are obviously much shorter. It's exactly as we discussed in our meeting, with revenues approved at $15,839 and expenditures approved at $15,930. And those revenue and expenditures are shown right on pages 5 and 6. Okay? And the same thing with the town, the next little packet you will have is for the town of McGill. And again, they just have to do their own budget. It includes exactly what we discussed when we were talking about these budgets in session and as presented. And so you'll see that the revenues for McGill go ahead and start on page 5. And then you have different components of their expenditures because they're a little bit bigger. They break theirs out between general government, public safety, highways and streets, and culture and recreation. And that's on 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then exactly as we discussed during our budget workshops. The next one is the town of Ruth. Exactly the same information. We have the revenues on page 5, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9 will show you the expenditure side of the equation. Again, these are as we discussed in our meetings. And the final one is for the fire district. And this one is got the revenues on page 5 and the expenditures on page 6. So these are all as we discussed. Again, I'd like to emphasize that we did talk about the fire district and working on that budget along with the ag extension, the EMS, the senior center. So there are multiple budgets where these smaller budgets, like I say, they have been going ahead and budgeting in operations their net proceeds, and because the net proceeds are going down, they are expenditures over revenues, and so I will be working with those department heads in order to assist them to find a better place to be so that they're not eating into their fund balance. It's best to start addressing these issues early instead of finding we're out of money, how are we going to cut back? So I'll be working with all of them, and I'll be bringing back information from those work sessions and also related to the revenues and a potential ordinance for the franchise fee. So Are there any questions on any of this?
I have a question. On that catastrophic fund, the $1 million catastrophic fund that we have proposed,
Yes, sir.
is that included in our, anywhere else in the monies we talked about?
That you will see is included in your ending fund balances on page 7 of that handout. You'll see the ending fund balance for FY13 was $2.5 million. The ending fund balance estimated for this year is $2.3 million, and for next year is $1.6 million. That $1 million is the catastrophic loss is included in that ending fund balance.
And that, and so that's not included in our balances, the net proceeds fund.
The general
No,
fund you're talking
no,
about?
it's not in the general fund, it's in a separate fund.
This is a separate fund, huh?
That's correct, sir. You have $8 million in net proceeds mitigation.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the FY 2015 tentative budget in the state-required format.
I make a motion to approve the FY 2015 tentative budget in the state-required format.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second. Did you get that, Susan? Mr. Lemon? Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
No.
No, we can't do that. Can he oppose the budget?
Yes.
Oh, all right. New world for me after all these years. Okay. Thank you. Next item, discussion action possible approval. I'm sorry, Mike, I wasn't being slow. I thought we had to do it. Discussion action possible approval to reinstitute a 2% electric franchise fee in White Pine County. I think we ought to just put that off, and we've already explained it.
May I just make
Sure.
a comment?
Sure.
I have worked very, very hard in making budget cuts and offering ways to balance this budget. And I just heard one dissenting vote. I would invite all of you to come with recommendations on where you see we can cut back this budget more. I am really open to suggestions. I've worked very hard. I think we've come a very long way. But I agree with all of you that we need to continue to work on this budget. But I am asking for your recommendations and assistance.
Well, the reason I says we're talking 2% here, and we did the 1%. That's what I was asking.
No, I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay. So,
Because I know that the revenues balancing the budget, and that's what that speaks to.
Exactly.
This particular franchise fee, is balancing the budget, so we're not constantly cutting into fund balance.
fund balance.
Understandably, that your point is very well taken. I look forward to that chance. As I recall, you did say at the last meeting, we're down to where the only remaining reductions in expenses are on, I think that you, was related to personnel costs or specifically positions. I don't remember how you worded it, so that might have to be the focus. No, I did vote for the budget last time with the understanding, and this is just as a background, that it was essentially fixing an administrative glitch. In conversation with one commissioner, one staff member, understood this was an oversight we were correcting from under the prior finance director, but I have learned enough to sway me to consider this to be a new tax that we would be examining, and we might actually have on this agenda for soon. And for that reason, and that reason not only is why I can't vote for it. I reiterate what I said earlier. You've done an even more magnificent job this year in walking us through even the smallest of expenditures and the smallest of processes to try and get as much progress as we make. And I thank you very much. It's been very educational for me.
Well, do you want us to table this for a later date to discuss the franchise when we just start working on the final budget, or do you want to just take it off the agenda at this time? Just take it off till we come back in for more on the final budget? Okay. Do I need a motion for that, Kelly?
Yeah. I moved it. I moved not to table. I moved to, what is it? Not to.
Just remove from the agenda.
Will you take
No action. Yeah. Okay. That's fine, you can just take no action on it.
If no one's gonna make a
Thank
motion
you,
about it.
that's all,
have it.
very good, thank you. Okay,
Are we going to put this on a future
yes,
agenda and then we'll discuss it, the 1%?
when we get into the final budget, yes.
So are we gonna do it prior to the final budget?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it would be good if the district attorney and I had a chance to, because we have been communicating back and forth, but we haven't had the real time to sit down and hash this out, to go ahead and do that, and then bring it back forward, so we can answer all of that.
And in the meantime, we may find other ways to not even put it into effect, so that, but I would ask you to please visit with Mrs. Francis on a one-to-one basis and go over the budget. I've spent 4 weeks, a little more than that with her, and I've learned a lot, because things have changed. We had revenues cut, there was things that had to change. All the wish lists had to go. There was over $900,000 and we wants, well, we don't. We're not getting them.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's really important that we sit with Mrs. Francis, each commissioner on an individual basis, and talk with her and visit with her and find out where we're headed. Okay? Yeah. All right, at this time, public comment.
I'd like to make a public comment. And what I'd like to reiterate is all the garbage that's gone around about the pool and us being in red ink, it really needs to be emphasized. And Garrett, you're with the newspaper, I hope you really specify. We are not in financial red ink like they put on the front page of a rag that some people read, and I choose not to. But it's very important that the community and the county know that we're not in financial ruin, and that's no more rumors, no more talk about it, because I heard about it all weekend long, and it kind of upset my stomach. I'd use another adjective, but I don't feel like that's necessary. But I just want to emphasize that we're not in red ink, and it should be spread all over the community through any media resource we can use. The county's doing fine. We're struggling with the budget because of revenues and expenditures, but as far as the amount of money we have in, our finance director's led us in the right direction. We're moving in the right direction. The county's going to look great in a couple of years, but right now we're in a cycle that's not as good as it can be or has been. It's not through any fault of the commission or anybody else. It is what it is. It's just because we don't have enough revenues to offset our expenditures. And so no more talk about the county having red ink. That's my comment.
Thank you. Mrs. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things as a department head. I've worked for the county since 1999, was a county commissioner for 4 years. I've never seen this county ever be able to put together a budget that was balanced the first time, ever. And I sit in on the budget hearings all the time. Whether the county has money or has a drop in revenue, it's always a lot of work, and it's always a lot of work for the finance director. And we really have to appreciate the kind of work that she does. Fortunately, my budget is outside the general fund, but I still watch to see because, you know, there are revenues that drop, and then it does affect my office. On another note, on the 2% franchise, I sat in on those meetings with the Department of Taxation, and at the time the ordinance went through for the 2% franchise fee, the county commissioners at that time wanted a sunset clause against the wishes of the Department of Taxation. I thought I would bring that up because the Department of Taxation did not want a sunset clause on that ordinance, but the commission wanted to, so they could revisit it and see where the county was. So, those are my
Thank you,
comments.
guys. And it's nice to have 3 former commissioners in the audience to know what we're going through trying to balance the budget. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, if no one else, I'll avail myself of the opportunity for public comment. This did, again, a huge amount of time went into this, I know that, right? And good quality work. And the public ought to know one thing. We are all like-minded with the government, so this has nothing to do with the pool. It's a separate fund, and it is right now looking good.
Thank you.
Am I speaking for everyone with that?
You are.
I mean, the pool is not a word that fits into this conversation, because I've had a lot of questions too saying, well, maybe with this, pool. It has nothing to do with it. I am concerned about the future cycle. I am obviously very old-fashioned in hesitating on kind of even submitting not a deficit, but a proposed budget that draws on fund balances, on savings, because I'm just old-fashioned that way. What we're doing is very normal. Elizabeth has made a very important point that's kind of gotten lost in this, and that is we have well over a half a year's worth of operating funds sitting in available fund balances, and many, many counties in the state don't have. So to that, from that measure, we are on a financially sound footing. The question is the concerns about revenue and income. Just as you might say, I've got X number of dollars in the bank for my retirement and my savings, but right now I've got concerns about paying my bills for the next 2 months or 3 months. One is a cash flow and revenue situation, and one is long-term savings to avoid the two-second U-turn. And I don't think any of us want to transmit the message that we're in a disaster scenario or severely in trouble that way. It is a matter of the short-term funding. And I am concerned, to close on what Richard said, is where we are on that cycle. Of course, no one really knows, but with the risks of the net proceeds of mines tax being subject to what I suspect will be draconian reallocation by the legislature, as well as this really horrendous concept and relatively unconventional concept of the margins tax coming to Nevada, we're just going to be taking too many shots. And I'd like to, I'm acting in a way that I think we all are concerned about, making the most of those savings should things go from awkward to bad to dire. The voices more senior to myself in government, we're here in that dire period. I know secondhand what they went through and what citizens went through, and we don't ever want to look at something like that again. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Presser. Any other public comment? Yes, Joe.
I guess y'all know me again, Carol McKenzie. I just wanted to bring you on a little lighter subject, and I do appreciate the fact that you asked the newspaper to put all of that in there, because I think that's one thing that will really help the citizens of Black Pine County understand what's going on, is to get that information from you and have in the paper so they can look at it and know what's going on. Because a lot of people feel like they're being kept in the dark, and that needs to change. On a lighter note, our building down the Lund is being fixed. We have all the holes patched. It's looking good. We're hoping to paint it in the near future and brighten it up a little bit. We had a funeral that we ended up having the family eat in our building. We had over 90 people in our building eating lunch after the funeral the other day, and they were very impressed by our buildings. So we're making progress, and it's getting used a lot.
Good.
Moving on. Thank you for helping us get that building.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. If none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I second.
I have a motion, a second. Question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your opinions. Hi there.
Amanda, you wait a minute. What